Hello everyone and welcome back to Brink of Speed. Today I have an exciting new video for you. We're going to find out if the M3 Manual is more fun and a better car than the C8 Stingray. Real quick before we get into it though, if you're excited about this video, give it a big thumbs up. Smash that red subscribe button. Help me reach my goal of 100,000 subs between now and the end of this year. All right, now let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so today, this is a 2025 BMW M3 manual transmission. Now, the styling of this car used to not really fit my fancy. I was not a fan of that front grille area, but as my good friend Chris said, who is a huge BMW fan, let it grow on you and it probably will, and it has. Do I like it as much as some of the older models? Maybe, maybe not. I'd have to see them side by side. But the overall look of this M3 is pretty typical. It hasn't changed that much. It's a good-looking sedan ever since they switched the M3 from a two-door to a four-door. It has aggressive styling there on the side, the wide fender flares, the nice side rocker. I love the wheels. I love the brakes as well because you get the drilled brakes coming to the rear end. I love the rear end spoiler here. It does look great as well. It's not too big, not too small. The exhaust is really cool too, and it does sound good as well. And I like this little flare in the rear that kind of connects the arrow on the side. It all looks really, really nice. So the overall looks to me are not bad. We're going to start with the passenger side. As you open the door, the styling in here is, in my opinion, just okay. It's nothing state-of-the-art. This is the base model because it is the 6-speed manual transmission. So I feel like if this was an automatic and a higher trim, I would maybe like it a little bit better, but this reminds me of the 1LT, 2LT trim in a Stingray. It's probably more like the 1LT than the 2LT, believe it or not. There are some nicer features in this, one being that you get a back seat. So if you're not wanting to buy a two-door sports car, you want something that's fast. It's a four-door, you can fit passengers in. I've got long legs and I fit pretty darn good, and this seat's back pretty far. Coming back here to the trunk, you have massive trunk space, so this is going to blow the Stingray away. Now coming to the driver's side, same thing over here, same type of look. The steering wheel is definitely much better than a 1LT Stingray or a 2LT Stingray. It's very soft, Napa leather feeling. It does have the flat bottom, and it's got quite a few buttons on it that make it look high-tech. And then, of course, the screen looks very high-tech as it wraps from the driver all the way over almost to the passenger side. All right, coming into the hood, I like the setup here. It's got a couple of cross braces in the front for more rigidity. As far as the engine goes, it's like any modern-day sports car. You can't really see anything, but it is a 3-liter inline 6 with twin turbos. It is a little low on power in my opinion. It's actually pretty close to the Stingray, but it only has 406 foot-pounds of torque. It's got 473 horsepower, so it's down about 22 horsepower on the Stingray. However, if you opt for the competition, you're going to get 523 horsepower and 479 foot-pounds of torque. So that's going to be quite a bit of difference in power and the way it feels. All right, what do you say we take a ride from my point of view and let you guys know what I think about the way it drives and handles. So I've seen this tech in other BMWs. Am I a fan? It's okay. I actually have gotten used to the Stingray so much that I feel like the high tech in the Stingray is a little bit nicer than this BMW. It's just not really visually appealing to the eye. You have to kind of search for things. Whereas in the Stingray, you don't have to really search for anything. It's all right there, very clear as day, and it makes it much easier to know what's going on with your information center. So one of the first things that I noticed right when I got in this car was the clutch. Well, this M3 has probably a lighter clutch than even my Camaro had, and that's a problem in my opinion, and I wanted you guys to know about that right off the bat. Now I'm in M1, which is right here on the steering wheel. There's M2. M2 apparently takes off all the traction and stability controls. M1 just puts you in sport. But back to the main subject, which is, how does this car feel compared to a Stingray, and how does it feel for a four-door sedan? Well, it definitely feels like a four-door sedan. It drives a little bit heavy. The steering is not great in my opinion. I love the steering wheel. I love the layout, how thick these bolsters are for your, 10 and 2 positions. But I don't like the feel of the steering. And when you get up to a pretty high rate of speed, it definitely feels like the car wanders a little bit. And you don't get that in the Stingray at all. The brakes, however, are great. They almost feel like carbon ceramic brakes. So I would say they are better than even a Z51 Stingray brakes. Now, as far as acceleration goes, BMW prides themselves in being able to keep the turbo spooled up. I'm gonna take this turn pretty quick here, guys. Yeah, so again, that turn felt like this is heavy. It definitely was not a relaxed turn by me. I would definitely have to learn this car really well before I got comfortable enough to take corners as fast as I do in a Stingray. Back to the turbos. They pride themselves in keeping the turbos spooled so there is virtually no lag. And I hate to say it, but in this car, and it could just be because it's a manual transmission, there is quite a bit of lag. And you'll see here in a second. Okay, so I don't know if you could tell from that, but the turbos lag quite far behind the acceleration. Third gear, about 58 miles an hour, 3,500 RPM. It literally took till about 4,500 RPM for the turbos to kick in. To me, that's a lot of lag. So this BMW, being the base model and manual, has 50 horsepower less than the competition. And it also has a lot less torque, 73 foot-pounds of torque less than the competition version. So I'm certain that with the higher trim level or the competition level and the automatic, you would get less turbo lag. Does it feel as fast as a Stingray? It actually does not, and it shouldn't, because it has a lot less torque. Stingray has 470 foot-pounds of torque. This has 406. Stingray 495 horse, this 473. So this is definitely feeling slower for sure than a Stingray. Plus it's a manual transmission, so that doesn't help things. With the Stingray being a dual clutch, it shifts lightning fast and would, to me, easily destroy this car from 0 to 60, 0 to quarter mile, or even in a roll race. All right, now how do these seats feel and what is the overall ride comfort of this M3? The seats don't feel bad. They're fairly comfortable and they're very sporty. They have good bolstering and, you know, on the upper and lower. So they feel good. They're probably not as soft and cushy as my Stingray was or my E-Ray, but they're still not bad. As far as the overall ride in this car, it actually has an extremely smooth ride. I'm very impressed, especially on the smoother surfaces like what I'm on right now. It still really doesn't match the smooth and ride comfort of the MagneRide system in the Stingray, especially if you get the non-Z51 with MagRide. That car is gonna blow this car away for smoothness all day long. Now let's talk about price. And you know, one could argue all day long that German engineering is way better than American engineering when it comes to cars. I disagree. I feel like the Germans have a corner on some of the things in the market, yet America definitely has a corner on other things, and I like American-made products for the most part better. However, I do also like all other manufacturers for the most part. This is about $7,700 higher starting price than the 2025 Stingray. And to me, you're ultimately getting less. You're getting less in way of looks. You're getting less in way of performance. The naturally aspirated V8 in the Stingray is unmatched when it comes to the torque and the power. I feel like you're spending more just for the name. And that's okay if that's what you want, and you want, again, something that holds multiple passengers, then by all means, buy the M3. But there are a lot of other choices out there for sedans that you may like better. So don't just settle on M3 because you think the name is good. Definitely go out, do your research, and check out more than just this car when it comes to trying to decide whether you are going to buy a mid-engine sports car or a four-door sedan sports car. And let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, is this car truly in the same category as a Stingray? And would someone considering a Stingray consider this, and vice versa? Would someone considering an M3 consider a Stingray? The answer to that question is, it would probably be a very low percentage on both sides. However, there are people like myself that would like to change things up every once in a while and would think of cars like this to maybe change things up, especially because of the fact that you have this right here, the manual 6-speed transmission that gives you a much more controlling feeling over the car and is something that you no longer can get in a C8 Stingray or any other variant that the C8 has put out. Now I just dropped it out of M1 mode, which really tones this car down big time. It gets a lot more silent in the exhaust, and it has even more lag in that turbo response. It really feels like it's trying to be a gas saver. And that's not what we need in cars like this. When I press the M1 button, the steering definitely gets a little tighter as well. So I like that. That's similar to the sport mode and track mode in the Stingray. So I guess my final conclusions are as follows. Is this a really nice car? Of course. Is it something that I would buy instead of a Corvette? Not a chance. Now, is it something that I would buy if I was pretty much done with Corvette for a little while and I wanted something more family oriented and still wanted to have a blast? Yeah, but I would still probably get the automatic version just because of the fact that it's going to be a lot faster, not only because of the shifting, but also because of the more power that you get. So yeah, I would probably go with that. And I feel like that this car would be great for that reason. But like I said before, There are many other four-door sedan choices that you can get these days, and you might want to take a look at those before you buy this one. So is the M3 more fun or better than the Stingray? My answer to that is absolutely not. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope that it helped you understand my feelings being a hardcore Corvette guy driving a BMW M3, a brand new one at that. I hope this helps you if you are on the fence right now about one of these cars. Not only Corvette people watch this channel, but I'm sure there's going to be BMW people that click on this video to see what my opinion is of it. So that's not all you're going to hear. You're actually going to hear straight from the owner what his feeling is about this car compared to his last CT4V Blackwing. So this is going to conclude my drive and my review. Let's get to Dwayne and find out what he thinks. All right, guys. So this is Dwayne. Like I mentioned in the video earlier, he is the new proud owner of this beautiful M3. And he'd like to tell you what he thinks is better and maybe worse than his last CT4V Blackwing.
Hey everybody, it's Dwayne. Yes, I'm very fortunate to have owned not only a CT4V Blackwing, but also an M3. I drove the Blackwing for about 30,000 miles, and I've driven this about 10,000 miles, give or take.
Oh, wow,
so
you've
far.
already put that many.
Yeah,
nice.
Since July. Or, sorry.
I thought you got this.
No, I got it December.
December, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So, like, anyway, I put a lot of miles on my car. I love the M3. Actually, my personal preference is to have the M3 over the CT4V Blackwing.
Okay.
There's a lot of things I love more about the car. The electronics are way better in the car.
Okay.
Visibility is significantly better.
Really?
In the M3.
Okay.
Yeah, there's many times in the Blackwing I miss cars in my blind spot.
Well, then that's a good thing.
Yes. I would say at least once a month I miss the car. And I set up a triple check on my blind spot checking, and this still has much better visibility. The ventilated seats are better.
Okay.
Car has more power than the CT4V Blackwing, so to actually on a straight line, I feel it's a lot faster.
I agree with that.
I love the color. This
what is this?
Red. It's called Aventurin Red.
Okay.
Very nice. Has a little maroon in it. I'm an Aggie.
Sure.
So it kind of fits my my school colors a little bit better.
Right.
However, as far as looks, I did like the CT4V Blackwing looks better.
Yeah,
right.
I can understand that.
And the rev matching on the CT4V Blackwing was better.
Okay.
Right. It revs a little bit higher in the CT4V Blackwing, and so you don't get as big of a jerk.
Gotcha.
Right. Only if you're in Sport Plus mode. Right.
Okay.
If you happen to be in just regular mode, then there's a lot of jerk when you're downshifting.
Gotcha.
All right. Transmission is precise.
It is. I agree.
Totally precise.
Yeah.
There's no give. So it's easier to shift in the Blackwing. But once you learn how to do it, you could be really fast in this car. Rear seats actually have a little bit more leg room. So for passengers in the rear,
I
they
could
actually
concur with that.
Like I can actually sit behind myself.
Yeah, exactly.
In this car. And in the Blackwing, I couldn't even sit behind myself. And I'm only 5'6".
Sure.
Right. So the M1 switch is really easy to find. The V button in the Blackwing is a little bit lower on the steering wheel. It's a little bit harder to find.
Sure, sure.
Oh, the parking brake here is in the parking brake area.
Right.
Very easy to find.
Very easy to
find. Instantaneously locks the car.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when it comes to four-door manual transmissions with six-cylinder, sunroof, leather, there are only two options that if you want brand new. It's the Blackwing and the M3. And it's so sad. This is unfortunately the last model they're making a manual transmission. So I have no idea where I'm getting another manual transmission car after this. I'm going to have to just maintain it so it'll last a very long time.
There you go.
All right. But thanks for everything.
Yeah,
appreciate you coming out, Mike. It really is phenomenal. I love having you come out, review the car and everything, and share all your thoughts.
Thank you so much for allowing me to do that. I really appreciate it. Give Dwayne a big thumbs up. I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you out on the road.